Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a framework that has completely, literally revolutionized how millions of people approach personal growth. We're talking about James Clear's definitive #1 New York Times bestseller, Atomic Habits. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's approach this with a calm, focused mindset. Because the concepts we're about to explore, they are incredibly powerful. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. I really want you to let that sink in for a moment. This single idea completely dismantles that exhausting myth that massive success requires massive, sweeping action. We spend so much time obsessing over the finish line, right? But as we'll see, the real power actually lies in the quiet, repeating loops of our daily behavior. Okay, let's dive right in. The author James Clear didn't just study these principles in some sterile lab. He actually lived them. After a devastating baseball injury practically shattered his face early in life, he was forced to rebuild his capabilities from absolute scratch. And he did it by using tiny compounding habits to regain control of his life. That systematic approach eventually became this definitive manual, which, by the way, has sold over 15 million copies worldwide. It's an absolute masterpiece of behavioral design. Now, I want you to consider the sheer mathematical truth behind this philosophy. Clear introduces what he calls the 1% rule. Think about it like this. If you can get just 1% better each day for a single year, those tiny, almost unnoticeable improvements actually compound. But at the end of that year, you don't just see a slight change. To put that into perspective, you are mathematically 38 times better than when you started. That's huge. Conversely, if you get 1% worse daily, you decline nearly all the way down to 0. So you see, it's really all about your trajectory, not your current position.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the power of atomic habits, and then we'll walk deliberately through the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Finally, we'll outline the way forward. Let's get to it.
Section 1, the power of atomic habits, from the inside out. You know, most people actually approach change completely backward. They work from the outside in, just obsessing over the outcome, like wanting to lose 20 pounds or finally write that book. But true, lasting change, that has to work from the inside out. And that brings us to an absolutely crucial point, the concept of identity-based habits. The goal isn't just to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal isn't to run a marathon. It's to become a runner. The most powerful shift you can make in habit formation isn't about what you do. It's about who you believe you are. Every single time you perform a habit, you're essentially casting a vote for the type of person you wish to become. And you know what? You don't need unanimous perfection to win an election. You just need a majority of votes in your favor. Part 2. Law 1, make it obvious. The first law. Every habit begins with a cue, right? A trigger that tells your brain to initiate a behavior. We really like to think we're entirely in control of this, but our environment is actually the invisible hand that's shaping our behavior. If you want to actually master your habits, you have to manipulate those cues. To build a good habit, you make the cue incredibly obvious. And to break a bad habit, you invert this law entirely and make the cue invisible. It is just so much easier to avoid temptation altogether than it is to resist it using sheer willpower. So if you want to stop endlessly scrolling on your phone, don't just tell yourself to try harder. Make it invisible. Remove the distracting apps from your home screen or literally just leave your phone in another room. And this perfectly illustrates 2 really practical tactics from the book. First up is habit stacking. This is where you tie a new desired behavior right onto an existing automatic one. For instance, you could say, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Easy, right? Second is environment design. If you want to practice guitar more, don't hide it away in the closet. Put the guitar stand right out in the middle of your living room. A really small change in what you see creates a massive shift in what you actually do. Section 3, Law 2, make it attractive. The second law. Now let's move to the second phase of the habit loop, the craving.
As humans, we're neurologically wired to take action based on the anticipation of a reward, not just the fulfillment of it. That dopamine spike actually happens when we anticipate the event. Because of that, the more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit forming.
So to build a good habit, you have to engineer it so that it's deeply appealing to your brain. To break a bad habit, you have to mentally reframe it to make it highly unattractive, really highlighting the negative consequences of the action. You've got to change your internal narrative from "I have to do this" to "I get to do this." Or conversely, strip away all those false benefits you associate with your bad behaviors. Clear offers some really powerful strategies here. There's temptation bundling, which pairs an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Imagine promising yourself a coffee run, but only after you finish writing a tedious meeting agenda. Next, join a culture where your desired behavior is just the normal behavior. We naturally imitate the habits of our tribe. Finally, to make bad habits unattractive, Clear shares this pretty extreme thought experiment. Imagine burying the nuclear launch codes right next to a volunteer's heart. To start a war, a president would have to personally kill that volunteer, bringing the immense, visceral cost of the decision immediately to the surface. It renders the choice unimaginably unattractive.
Part 4. Law 3. Make it easy. The third law. We arrive now at the response phase. We need to remember a very fundamental truth about human nature. We are practically wired to conserve energy. We will instinctively take the path of least resistance every single time. Therefore, the absolute most effective form of learning is actual practice, not endless planning.
So to build a good habit, we have to actively remove the friction that stands in our way. You want to prime your environment to make the right choice completely effortless. And to break a bad habit, you purposefully inject friction. You add steps. You make the wrong choice exhaustingly difficult to execute.
Let's see how this builds into one of the book's most famous strategies, the 2-minute rule. When you start a new habit, you have to scale it down so it takes under 2 minutes to complete. So read before bed becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Remember, a habit must be established before it can be improved. You simply cannot optimize a behavior that you don't reliably do. Master the simple art of showing up first.
Section 5, Law 4, make it satisfying. The fourth law. Finally, we reach the very end of the habit loop, the reward. Our brains are hardwired to prioritize immediate rewards over delayed ones. If a behavior is followed by an immediately satisfying outcome, we're practically guaranteed to repeat it. The definitive contrast here is absolutely vital. To lock in a good habit, you have to feel successful immediately, even if it's in a really tiny way. But to kill a bad habit, you need to ensure the failure brings an immediate, painful consequence. We learn from what feels good, and we actively avoid what feels bad. To make a habit satisfying, try using a visual habit tracker. Simply checking a box or crossing a day off a calendar provides this crucial, tangible dopamine hit that proves to yourself you're making progress. Your only goal becomes don't break the chain. On the flip side, to make bad behaviors unsatisfying, you can create a habit contract. Partner with someone and establish a strict, immediate, negative consequence, like paying them $50 or wearing a rival team's jersey every single time you fail to keep your word. The way forward, application. We've explored the architecture of change, haven't we? We've seen exactly how to make habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Now we really must look at how you implement this framework, because, let's be honest, knowledge without application is just entertainment. It's time to transition this powerful theory into quiet, relentless practice. The ultimate action plan demands a real shift in your mindset. Step 1. You have to stop obsessing over the distant finish line and clearly decide the type of person you want to be. Step 2. Begin proving it to yourself today with small, continuous wins. Build your unstoppable system of tiny, daily votes. Because true long-term thinking is actually goalless thinking. It's a cycle of endless, continuous refinement. I want to leave you with a thought to hold on to long after this explainer ends. What is the smallest vote you can cast today for the person you want to become tomorrow? Don't wait for a sudden burst of motivation. Please, don't wait for Monday. Find that tiny 2-minute action and cast your vote right now.